just been enjoying this so much, and I hope y'all are actually getting something from this, and more importantly, applying this into your lives. I hope the education and kind of my analogies to describe these things to you, I guess you could say, is beneficial, because that's essentially kind of what I'm doing here. I know all this information, that's why I'm doing it, but I think the significance behind it is just understanding on a whole nother level. And today what we're going to be talking about is fasting. And this is going to be a very cool thing, because I want to touch on a whole bunch of stuff that hopefully not a lot of people really know about. I think when you talk about fasting or intermittent fasting or anything of that nature, most things that come to people's mind is just weight loss. And being 180 pounds, I don't need to lose any weight, but I still fast, and I still have an intermittent fasting regimen that I like to follow from time to time. And the reasons are going to be as followed. And that is obviously going to be in one of the series we talked about before, autophagy. Basically just going to be putting your body into a healthy state of stress. A fancy term for that is hormesis. And what that allows your body to do is like shape up, like, hey, listen, like things are happening and we have to kind of focus in a little bit. So that's kind of what fasting does for the autophagy aspect of it. And it allows your cells to function on a higher level with less wasted processes, I guess you could say. So that's going to be a huge component. Upregulation of autophagy, talked about that in another series. Feel free to visit that. Diving into the next component of it is going to be preventative health. So the best form of treatment, can you guess it, is going to be prevention. So talking about cancers and all sorts of stuff that you really don't want to kind of dive into or anything like that, fasting is going to be a huge beneficial thing that you can do in order to have a say or a prevention type mentality going into it. So cancer forms, in most cases, from a series of exposures, environment, and a whole plethora of things, but we're going to keep it pretty simple for this video. Chronic inflammation. What happens is your cells are just kind of like living in a paradise, and there's trees and animals and all sorts of stuff, and everything's pretty, right? Chronic stress or chronic inflammation is basically going to just be like a nightmare on Elm Street. Like, it's just, you don't want to be there, and your cells will kind of tolerate it for a while, but at some point things kind of turn Nightmare Before Christmas-ish. And that's when you start to get these diseases and pathologies and things that you don't ever really want to happen to take place. So the name of the game is to combat chronic inflammation and trying to get that out of your system as fast as possible. Inflammation, when you cut yourself and it gets hot and it's red, that's good. That's your body saying, hey, there's something going on here. We need to go there, heal this up, and then be done. The key thing is to be done. So a lot of the foods that we eat, some chronic conditions that I deal with here with like lower back pain and all sorts of things just left alone for too long, that is where more problems come from. So diving back into the whole fasting thing, what that does and why that's so important and beneficial for inflammation is going to be because we talked about it in one of the episodes before. Your cells have a giant list of things that they do. And what happens when you become in a fasted state, or that hormesis, or a state of stress, that list gets shortened. Inflammation, in some degrees, will be taken off that list. So it reduces your body's ability to produce those inflammatory markers. By default, it reduces the inflammation to your body, which is a fascinating thing, and it's very beneficial, especially if you have like a lot of arthritic conditions. Cancer prevention is really good too, because what happens is when you hit that fasted state, and we talked about autophagy, taking out the garbage or the dysfunctional cells, that's going to be a huge component as well. So cancer, as we know, is basically going to be a dysfunctional cell gone haywire. It's rampant. It's out of control. So it is said that a lot of the times when you hit that fasted state and your body basically becomes more efficient and it cuts the BS, if you will, some of those compromised cells and the inflammatory markers basically either get taken out or down-regulated. So that is a huge component to think about moving forward. So if it's going to be one thing that you take from this video, all the crazy stuff we talked about, I kind of said it a little bit fast, but fast, right? I said it fast. Anyways, so basically I would recommend doing it. What I do is fast 3 times a year for 48 hours. It's not this perfect designated thing that's going to be the end-all be-all, the silver bullet or anything like that. But there's been a lot of studies, and that's kind of like a good happy median. So if it's going to be anything that you'd like to do and take-home message from this, I would grab your annual calendar and go these 2 days, these 2 days, and these 2 days, and basically kind of just do it. And then obviously if you want to get into the health components of it as well, you can dive into intermittent fasting or fasting in general. Google is going to be a great resource for you for that. But I just kind of want to touch on some major components that I know not a lot of people know about and just the significance behind it. So reduce the chronic inflammation and help the autophagy processes in your body, and just kind of a prevention type thing for some cancers out there. So pretty beneficial if you ask me. So a couple days without eating, especially that toxic sugar and all the stuff that we tend to consume on occasion. So anyways, hope this stuff was beneficial for you. Again, like I said, always reach out if you have any questions or if you want me to start to talk about anything else. I'm just going to keep cruising along with this biohacking series, and we have a lot more to talk about. NO2 production, breathing through your nose, the importance of sleeping without carbs. The list goes on. So stay tuned. Thank y'all.